here with Matilda Lloyd from Bailiwick Legal, and welcome to 2023 and our first Facebook Live for this year. It's been an interesting few years really through Facebook Live, and today I hope we can pique your interest further again. Today's topic is carbon credits and how those credits might be used to finance a venture or enterprise in the farming sector. Late last year we were asked to assist a client for the purchase of a station for the dual purposes of accruing carbon credits as well as running livestock. Pretty interesting exercise overall. What we are going to talk about today is not legal advice, obviously, and if you require any legal advice, please come to us at a later stage. Today's discussion is for information purposes only. So, welcome, Matilda, to 2023.
Thanks, Phil.
And I've done the intro now. What are our key points today?
Like Phil said, we're going to be looking at carbon credits, specifically carbon credits as security and as a way to repay loans. We're then going to look at the different loan repayment methods that are on offer, and particularly this new one that we've worked on. And then we're going to finish by talking about the relationship between a lender, a borrower, and a carbon project manager in these sorts of agreements.
Okay, so taking that first one,
yes,
carbon credits as a security, how does that work?
Well, a security, for those that don't know, is just an interest in property, and it's there in case the borrower defaults and the debt needs to be satisfied. Now, security generally attaches to an interest in property. That can be, land or an interest in property. It can also be personal property, including shares or equipment, plant. It can also attach to life insurance policies. In this instance, the agreement we worked on, security was in the form of Australian carbon credits, so ACCUs as we commonly call them.
Yep, and land.
And land.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we've been informed this is kind of the first time that this has, happened in Australia where carbon credits has been taken as security.
Yep. So perhaps a little bit of background on what is an ACCU?
Yes,
a carbon credit, right?
Yeah, I'll refer back to our earlier Facebook Live last year where we delved into carbon farming and offsetting for farmers. So an ACCU, Australian carbon credit, is equivalent to 1 tonne of carbon dioxide that's stored or sequestered. And then that can be sold on the open market or through the government's Clean Energy Reduction Fund.
Yep. Okay, and I guess, the flavour of ACCUs in the context of value.
Yes.
What sort of price can someone get for an ACCU, either through ERF or on the open market these days?
Well, today's current price is $35. In New Zealand, it's higher than that. It's $71. It does fluctuate, but indications have shown that it's probably just going to keep increasing at the moment.
Right. So if I'm producing one ACCU, I can sell that for $35 in today's marketplace.
Yes, that's
right?
Correct.
And conversely, 100 is going to be $3,500.
Yes.
Right. Which, if you're producing, I guess, 1,000 ACCUs, $35,000.
Oh yeah, it can be very lucrative.
Yeah.
I suppose the key point to raise there is there are contracts where it might be at a fixed price.
Yep.
Government contracts, particularly with the ERF, are set at a fixed price.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're selling on the open market, there's no fix. It can go up and down depending on the market.
Yeah. And so how then are the ACCUs used to repay the loan?
Absolutely. So in a sort of a first, loan agreements are typically structured so there's terms, there's repayment conditions, there's interest, there might be additional fees attached. Interest is something that people are concerned about. There's an interest rate and that can be variable, it can be capped, it can be fixed as well. In this instance, the repayment of this loan is the fixed allocation of ACCUs that are generated from the project and that are delivered to the lender each year for the term of the agreement.
Okay. And all right, so often invariably, I guess, in our experience at least, when an enterprise has engaged a project under the ERF typically, there's a project manager.
Yes, that's correct.
Where do they fit in, or do they?
Yeah, so a project manager is, I suppose, pretty common when you look at a carbon project. They can be responsible with the initial work, so doing the measurements to establish whether you can run a carbon project on your property, what measurement model is going to be best suited to measure that carbon, and then helping with the registration. In terms of this sort of agreement, and I suppose the ongoing project, carbon manager is responsible for measuring that carbon, recording it, auditing the vegetation, the growth that's generating the ACCUs. So they play a critical role with the ongoing management and ensuring that the borrower is able to deliver the ACCUs that were agreed upon.
Right. That's what this arrangement centred around.
Yeah.
But in our experience, the normal way of repaying or paying for that management service is just cash, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, a project manager they usually have a contract, a carbon abatement services contract, with the client, so the person whose land the project is on.
Yep.
And under that contract, they could be paid cash, but they could also be allocated a certain amount of ACCUs as payment. And in this case, this is what happened. So the project carbon manager was allocated a certain amount of ACCUs that were accrued from the project. And as a way of securing their interest in the project, a mortgage was put over the land by the carbon manager as well as the lender.
Yeah. It was quite an intricate arrangement. Also in the sense that I think the lender had rights over the ACCUs that were being produced.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was part of the agreement.
Yeah.
So that the lender, they had an interest because that's how they were being repaid. Like a normal loan agreement, a mortgage was registered to ensure that interest was paid.
Yeah. So, sort of wrapping it all up, I guess, now that we've had that brief overview, how can farmers use this type of facility?
Well, I suppose the real benefit that we saw, particularly with this scheme, was that there was no interest rates applicable in this transaction.
Yeah.
There also wasn't the pressure to have, I suppose, revenue up front to repay this loan while you're trying to grow a business. Particularly for a pastoralist, it's a very expensive enterprise entering into a carbon project, but also a livestock operation.
Yep.
And so it frees up revenue that you can invest in your business to grow that business.
Right. On the basis that maybe the ACCUs are a bit of a passive income source rather than something you actively have to manage and rear like stock or a crop.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, that's the benefit of carbon projects themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when it's a vegetation or soil project, they're carrying on in the background. Unless you're doing specific activities to reduce emissions, improve sequestration, it can run in the background, act as that passive income.
Right. Great. Thanks, Matilda. I think that probably wraps us up today.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we can touch on some of the benefits and some of the things to consider. And I was just going to mention, when you're thinking about this sort of scheme and whether it's applicable to you, you really have to consider your project. Do you have an existing project?
Yep.
Are you looking at getting one? Because there are timeframes you have to consider.
Yeah.
It can be quite lengthy to get a project registered.
Yeah.
And then you also have to consider, the permanence period.
Yeah.
A lot of carbon projects are 25 years. So we always recommend that's something to take in the back of your mind. Are you happy to have a project for 25 years?
Yeah.
But those are the key things.
Yeah. So I guess so. Yeah, we're probably not quite ready to wrap up, are we? In the sense that it's perhaps not a great tool for a farmer that hasn't got a project on the go at the moment.
Yeah.
But if they do get a project up and going, and they have existing financial facilities, they might be able to swap those facilities for the ACCU process as a repayment platform.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's when we'd recommend it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's always the option if you're looking at a property that has a carbon project on there, maybe that's something to consider.
Yeah.
And we'd
Yeah.
recommend that.
Right. Good. Okay, thanks Matilda, and thanks everyone for listening in. If you need advice in relation to what we've just talked about, or generally in relation to matters that affect the rural community, please just give us a call. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. So next Facebook Live we'll be negotiating access and compensation agreements, particularly looking at wind, solar and minerals.
Yeah. Bit of a live topic at the moment.
Indeed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.